Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Conor McGregor and astrology. Now, as many of you may have heard, mixed martial artist Conor McGregor got into some trouble with the law recently. He apparently had taken a chair or a dolly or some object and threw it at a bus carrying UFC fighters. Now, this happened on Thursday, April 5th, 2018. I don't know if this was an act of revenge or vengeance, or he got irate at one of the people on the bus for some other reason. Now, an argument, from what I understand, it may have been over a title that was vacated. Now I understand naturally Conor McGregor could be incensed over at least the possibility of the title being stripped. Now, however, he turned himself in to authorities and released on $50,000 bail. I believe his title has been stripped though, but you want to verify that on on the internet. But he is out of jail now and is free to travel internationally after being released on the 50 grand. Now, for now anyway, I mean, he has pleaded not guilty. His next court appearance is June 14th. Now, and sadly, my understanding is he has not been remorseful or apologetic. I mean, I understand that's not shocking considering he has pleaded not guilty. Now, I want to talk about some transits in his chart and some natal positions that could be related to what happened to him recently. Now, at this time, when this incident occurred, he had 4 planets in transit in his 12th house of imprisonment and self-undoing. And he also had Chiron in there. He had 4 planets and Chiron in there. Now, transit Venus in the 12th can be an indicator or a loss of something monetary, something on a financial nature. Now, the thing about it is, as I stated before, he was released on $50,000 bail money. Now, I don't know how much that technically actually came out of his pocket, or if it was a friend or what have you is actually going to pay the tab. But I'm sure he probably is going to wind up. It's going to come at least a little bit out of his pocket at the very least. And if he is banned from mixed martial arts, from this UFC thing, then he obviously potentially could be losing some money. Now, the thing about this is that transit Venus in the 12th house also can be something where there can be some secret sorrows in connection with relationships, and this could be an indicator of relationships dissipating in his life. Now, the thing about this too is that transit Chiron was making a conjunction to his natal Mars in the 12th house. This can indicate perhaps some suffering and repercussions due to volatile actions, which could lead to incarceration, because the 12th house is, of course, the house of incarceration and imprisonment. Now, transit Mercury retrograde in Aries in the 12th house shows that thinking may simply have been going haywire, and acrimonious, angry thinking could lead to imprisonment. And also, I mean, there's also talk, what's interesting about this, that there's rumors and speculation and conjecture as to whether this incident was staged or not. Now, astrology out of the way, my feeling is that it likely wasn't, at least not on his part. I don't think he planned on wind up being in jail and possibly have his reputation and career obliterated. Was Dana White, was he involved maybe somehow in this? I mean, that's always a possibility that maybe he did something to set some circumstances up, but for me to think that Conor McGregor was actually in on something that was going to be so strongly to his detriment and face all these ramifications and repercussions, it just seems to me that it would be very hard to envision that. If there was anything staged, and even if he wasn't on it, it's really hard for me to fathom how it could have gone to this level, to a point where he really has suffered, certain public humiliation. Many of you may have seen the video on the internet when the police had come to his house and they apprehended him, and it showed him leaving in handcuffs. So anyway, back to the transits and points in natal chart that I think could be related to what's been happening with him. Now, another thing too is that that his reputation is strongly at stake now. Now, transit Pluto at this time, and still is at the time of this video, is making a very tight conjunction to his midheaven. Now, this, of course, can suggest an obliteration or destruction of the career, reputation, and public image. Transit Saturn and Mars right now are in his 9th house at the time I made this video. Now, transit Saturn in the 9th can indicate taking serious responsibility for matters pertaining to the law. Now, also limitations in foreign travel. Now, his passport has been tagged, so he is prohibited from leaving the country. Now, transit Mars in the 9th house may have to deal with the law due to acrimonious and volatile actions. Now, also, but I noticed too that he still is, he has transit Mercury in his 12th house right now. So he's probably not going to be very loquacious about what's going on, and if he pondering possible future plans or anything. But transit Mercury will enter his 1st house on May 26th. So the energy, this is something where he will be more valuable at this time, I think, and we'll start to talk more openly about what he's going to be doing. If the UFC, if this career there does come to a conclusion. Now, anyway, going back to that Capricorn energy in the 9th, this could be about, with a transit Mars and Capricorn in the 9th, this could be about the energy in working within the parameters of the law. Now, but he has the one positive transit. Now, I understand, as stated before, about transit Pluto making a tight conjunction and applying conjunction to his 10th house, about the possibility of destruction and death and obliteration of the career and reputation. But on the positive side, it is making a trine aspect to his natal ascendant, to his Taurus ascendant. Now, this could give some ability to be resilient and perhaps make a positive transformation career-wise if this is necessary, and maybe help, and also maybe make modifications in his outer demeanor and projection of self to be a little bit better, conducting himself more outwardly better, and also making this adjustment or transformation with some of that Taurus rising persistence and perseverance and a lot of patience as well. And I could really see how it may go down this way for him. Now, also, he has, sadly though, he has transit Neptune conjunct his North Node right now, conjunct his natal North Node, which right now, of course, may be causing his future to appear nebulous and unclear. In his natal chart, he has Taurus rising at 22 degrees, which, of course, is a critical degree. This can make it more pronounced and prominent and stand out more. As many of you may know, I have Taurus rising at 22 degrees in my chart. Now, the thing about this is the 22nd degree, as far as Sabian symbols go, this could be a degree, of course, of strong tribulation and adversity, and perhaps even deterioration of the reputation and loss of stature in life and credibility right when one is at that peak and apex of one's career. And another thing too, even though, he might appear a little less maybe sensitive and demonstrative outwardly, more impassive with the Taurus ascendant. Conor McGregor, as many of you may know, he does have a very strong Cancerian influence in his chart. He has 3 planets in Cancer, the Sun, Moon, and Mercury, and he also has Chiron in Cancer, making a close conjunction to his Mercury. Now, he also has Cancer, the zodiac sign Cancer, on his third house cusp of rational thinking. If I remember correctly, he does have it on Cancer on his third house cusp. And so, and with Chiron and Cancer conjuncting Mercury, I mean, you're not talking about Mercury and Cancer can take things very sensitively, along with the third. I mean, the difficulty with rational thinking with Cancer on the third house cusp as Chiron making the conjunction to Cancer Mercury. This could show, I mean, Cancer Mercury by itself, I mean, emotions can cloud rational, logical thinking right there. But at the same time, I mean, on the positive side, Cancer Mercury can really be able to extemporize and speak really off the cuff and very quickly with good spontaneous type remarks and comebacks. But the thing about that is, but when you have Chiron there conjuncted, there can be some wounds and maybe some as far as figurative wounds and some suffering maybe due to those extemporaneous remarks, so to speak, and really feeling repercussions because of that, things that maybe shouldn't be said. He also has Mars in Aries at a critical degree, making the square to his Cancer Mercury. So, I mean, this could be some difficulty with impetuous and impulsive speech, not worried about articulating things properly, and may try to process things too quickly mentally and misconstrue statements and go on the defensive. That Mercury and Cancer defensiveness maybe because of that. Now, also in his chart, I mean, Mercury is strongly afflicted. I mean, it not only squares Mars, it opposes Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And now transit Pluto is now opposing his natal Sun and Moon. Now the opposition that transit Pluto opposing his natal Sun, this could be some power battles, so to speak, with people that are prominent in power. And this is going to be, I think this is a reflection, maybe there'll be some battle with him and Dana White at this point in time or in the near future. Also, too, his Saturn, I mean, opposes his moon. So in his natal chart, he has Saturn opposite the moon. And this could give a nature that could be overly pessimistic and disconsolate and emphasize the negative aspects in things and see the bad, and really often seeing the bad in things. And Mars, I stated before, critical degree, 0 in Aries. He has in that 12th house of imprisonment, self-undoing, and limitations. Now, what I noticed, though, it's interesting, coming up, there will be a full moon in Scorpio in his 6th house on April 29th, 2018. Now, it will be close to his natal Pluto. Now, I'm thinking this could be very powerful, intense, convoluted, turbulent emotions. Maybe dealing with somebody in present or past employment. Now, also, too, at this time, is that conjunction to Pluto is going to give strong power to this energy, and because it's going to make a very close conjunction to his natal Pluto, this full moon in Scorpio on April 29, 2018. There might be some very powerful revelation that can give a transforming effect maybe on his employment, or what could happen is there might be perhaps a surreptitious somebody that maybe when you have a full moon, it's often about being tired, exasperated, full of something. It can be really tired of perhaps a surreptitious, manipulative maybe person that has been in his daily routine for a certain amount of time, and then maybe he unleashes a lot of this powerful Scorpio-like emotions, and of course making the conjunction to Pluto may even give more power to it. What I think is interesting too, that maybe at this time you look at this, Dana White has 23 degrees Scorpio rising, and McGregor 22 degrees Taurus ascendant, but because of that, obviously McGregor has 22 degrees Scorpio on his 7th house cusp of open adversaries. And Dana White right now, I mean, is pretty much going to be perceived, I think, as an open adversary to Conor McGregor. So it almost seems like this is everything but destined to really go down this way, in terms of them being at odds right now. And the thing, too, is Dana White had said that he was going to deal with the future of McGregor after, I guess, this UFC extravaganza over the weekend. Now, I think now this is what I'm thinking now. I mean, April 15th, 2018, you're going to have Mercury being direct, and you're also going to have the new moon in Aries at that time. The new moon in Aries is going to fall in Conor McGregor's 12th house of limitations and restrictions. Now, the new moon, the Aries energy could be, Aries is connected with combat and fighting. So the new moon there, could this be a new period of where there's going to be restrictions and limitations for Conor McGregor in connection with the fighting sport that he's in? Maybe that's when, at this time, coupled with Mercury going direct, is when this will be addressed to him at this time. And I wouldn't be surprised if it could be right on April 15th when when this message is communicated directly, or maybe sometime very shortly afterwards, because April 15th, I believe, is going to fall on a Sunday, so I'm thinking maybe it might be this around the 16th, but we'll see one way or another. One thing's for sure: when Mercury goes direct in Aries, I mean, there's going to be, for everybody, a lot of people collectively, you're going to have a much more direct communication, and things that have been suppressed and that have been reviewed for some time, that'll come to an end. I think the review process, as far as McGregor's fate, as far as UFC and mixed martial arts go, that will come down. That will likely, I think, happen around the 15th, because Mercury, when it's retrograde, as many of you may know, it's about review, and it's really, and I think I could see how they could go through this review process, and you figure in about a week's time it'll be April 15th, and that's maybe when when he's actually going to know what's going on in terms of his fate with the UFC. Now, the thing about this, too, is, in looking at this one more time from a non-astrological vantage point, that, if he's, right now, Conor McGregor is obviously has not shown, the remorse or being apologetic or what have you. And his next court appearance, from what I researched, not going to be till June 14th. So what that means to me, he's not probably... If this is a pending criminal situation, it would be hard for me to envision a scenario where the UFC would allow him to come back prior to that, because it would be he'd be still in a current ongoing criminal situation and legal situation. And the UFC, my feeling is they wouldn't want to have affiliation with him at that time. And really, and I think it wouldn't, if they were to show any mercy toward McGregor, the UFC, he wouldn't be able to come back with them until after that date. And who really knows at this point if Conor McGregor even wants to come back, if he is so infuriated at them right now. For what I understand is, I believe, I'm not 100% on it, but I believe his title has been stripped officially, or at least it's going to, I'm sure, likely in the near future, after what has just transpired. If it hadn't been stripped by now, then it will be, I'm sure it will be in the near future. So And I do hope that Conor McGregor does, learn something from this. I'm actually am a Conor McGregor fan. I'm going to follow him. I mean, not literally follow him, but what I mean is on the internet and watching him on TV. If I could ever see him, or on YouTube, and if he's fighting, however I could actually see him, I'm going to pull for him. If he's out of the UFC, I'll be more than happy. If maybe he's going to make a change or a transformation into maybe become a boxer or do something different where he's still involved in some fighting sport. That's kind of my feeling what's going to happen with him. I still pull for him either way, but I really hope at some point he comes to terms with what's happened to him, and whether he ever pleads guilty, or in spite of that, or whether he ever shows remorse or apologizes. I hope he comes to an understanding with himself on this matter, and that he learns from this, and that maybe he won't do anything like this again. That could really put himself, his life, and his career in very strong jeopardy. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my take on Conor McGregor and astrology. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be talking about my sun, moon, and ascendant combination, my sun in Cancer, moon in Gemini, and Taurus ascendant, and break it down. And by doing so, maybe some of you out there can watch us and apply it to your own sun, moon, and ascendant combination. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.